Good. Okay, let me pull this. Good. Hello everyone, my name is Hua and today we're going to review this book, Around the World in 80 Days. Alright, let's review it. The journey begins. Over 100 years ago, there lived a man named Phileas Fogg. For many years, he led his quiet life. He spent every day in his club, which rich men went to meet their friends. Every morning, he left his house and walked 576 steps to his club. Then he ate lunch. After lunch, Frog read 3 newspapers from cover to cover. Then he ate supper. After that, he played cards with his friends. On the stroke of midnight, he went home to bed. And he did it every day. And one day, he read a newspaper. "Listen to this," he announced to his friends. "It says it's possible to travel around the world in only 80 days. Despite his friend's laughter, Fogg was convinced he could do it. "See you in 80 days, he said. And then he started to pack up his things and then start to go. Then they arrived to Africa. While Phileas Fogg was crossing Europe, the police was hunting a runaway thief. Only a few days before, he had stolen a huge sum of £55,000 from the Bank of England. Oh. An inspector named Fix was convinced the thief would escape by sailing from Europe to Africa. He was waiting on the quay when Fogg reached Suez in North Africa. Fogg sent Passepartout to get his passport stamp. "I need proof of a trip," he explained. Quite by the chance, Passepartout happened to ask Inspector Fix the way to the passport office. When Fix saw the passport, he gasped. Fogg's description exactly matched the thief. Fix think Fogg was the thief, so he followed him. The voyage was rough, but Fogg stayed as calm as ever. He ate 4 meals a day and played cards. He might have been at home. 2 days early, the ship steamed in Bombay. Inspector Fix was ready to make his arrest, but the papers are not arrived. "My only hope," Fix decides, "this is to stop Fogg from leaving India." Later that day, he saw his chance. Passepartout was visit a temple, but he didn't realize he was supposed to take off his shoes. Then a priest tugged them from his feet. Then they started a fight. Oh. Fix was delighted. "Now I've seen that butler break the law. I can make sure he arrested and jailed here, along with his master." Fix followed Passepartout to the station and watched him catch a train. "See you in Calcutta," Fix muttered to himself, I get your Mr. Fog there. The train puffed its way through India, passing magnificent temples and fields of coffee and cotton. Passepartout saw it all, amazed. Fogg found a man to play cards. But halfway through the third day, the train came to a stop. Stop! The track ends here, a guard announced. It started again in 50 miles at Allahabad. Passepartout was furious. How will we reach Calcutta in time? He demanded. Fogg didn't seem worried. I've all no time for delays, he said quietly. He simply need to find another way to travel. Passepartout rushed off. Soon he was back with an answer. Look, an elephant! The elephant was expensive, but Fogg didn't mind. He invited his card-playing friend to join them. They walked and they walked. They got a journey for hours and hours, crossing forests and date trees and sandy plains. That night, they camped in a ruined bungalow. They were off again at 6 the next morning, breakfasting on bananas picked from a tree. They had almost crossed a thick forest when they heard music and voices. A large procession was snaking its way through the trees. In the middle of the procession, a group of warriors carried a body of a dead prince. Behind them, two priests are pulling a beautiful girl. Passepartout was shocked. What are they doing? They cried. It's a custom, the guide explained. When a prince dies, his wife must die too, so they can go to heaven together. Oh. Tomorrow, Princess Alda will be burned to death beside her husband. Passepartout was horrified. Even Phileas Fogg, who let nothing disturb him, seemed upset. I have 12 hours to spare, he observed. Let's save her. By nightfall, the procession had reached a small temple. The princess was locked firmly inside. Everything seemed hopeless until Passepartout had an idea. Next morning, Princess Aldua was laid beside her husband. When the priest lit a huge fire, watched a silent crowd. Suddenly, the air filled with screams. Some people even flung themselves to the ground. The dead prince was sitting up. Soon, his ghostly figure rose through the smoke and grabs Princess Alda with his arms when he strode off to the jungle. Let's go, the ghost called to Fogg. It was Passepartout who had disguised himself as the prince. Fogg and his friend chased after them, dodging bullets and arrows as they ran to safety. At Allahabad, Fogg gave the elephant to their guide and jumped on a train. But Fix has reported Passepartout fight at the temple. As they arrived in Calcutta, Fogg and Passepartout were grabbed by police and taken to court. Fogg and Passepartout faced a week in jail. A poor butler felt terrible when Fogg offended the court £2,000. Very well, said the judge. You may go free for now, but we'll keep the money if you don't return. Fogg caught his next ship to Hong Kong with an hour to spare. Fix is furious, but Hong Kong belonged to Britain. He thought, I can arrest Fogg here. Princess Aldua, who hoped to find her cousin in Hong Kong, went too. When the ship stopped for coal in Singapore, Fogg and the princess went for a carriage ride. They drove past pepper plants and nutmeg trees, grinning monkeys and grimacing tigers. Near the end of the voyage, the ship battled against a raging wind. Fogg remained perfectly calm, but Passepartout was in a panic. We missed our next trip. I know it. In the end, they reached Hong Kong one day late. Fogg has missed his next trip, which has to Yokohama in Japan. I knew it, cried Passepartout. Fix was delighted. Now Fogg's stuck here and I can arrest him. But luck was not in Fix's side. It turned out that the ship to Yokohama had also been delayed, so Fogg hadn't missed it at all. Even worse, Fix's arrest papers still hadn't arrived. Fix was desperate. Somehow he had to keep Fogg in Hong Kong until the papers came. Fogg booked a hotel for that night and set it off to find Alda's cousin. He sent Passepartout to reserve 3 cabins of the ship. On the quay, Passepartout heard that the ship was sailing that every evening, and so did Fix. We'll leave at 6 tonight, said the sailor. I'm a detective and your master is a thief, declared Fix at the inn. Nonsense, said Passepartout. Fogg doesn't know his ship sails tonight, thought Fix, and bought the butler several drinks. Before long, Passepartout was snoring and Fix was slipped away. Fogg was on the quay early next morning, and Princess Aldua was still with him. Her cousin has already left Hong Kong, and so, of course, had their ship. There was no sign of Passepartout either. The next steamer wasn't leaving for a week, but Fogg did not give up easily. Instead, he looked for another boat to take him to Japan. Finally, Fogg found a captain of a small boat who agreed to take them to Shanghai. You can catch another steamer for Yokohama from there, he said. Seeing Fix on the quay, Fogg offered him a lift. Before the boat left, Fogg searched all over Hong Kong for Passepartout, but his butler has vanished. For 2 days, the little boat sped through the waves. Then a great storm blew up, and gigantic waves crashed upon the deck. The boat has tossed around the sea like a ball. Alas the wind dropped. They had lost precious time. Even with all the sails hoisted, the boat couldn't go fast enough. When Fogg spotted a steamer, "That's the one from Shanghai to Yokohama," said the captain. "Signal her," said Fogg. With a bang, a rocket soared into the air, and the ship steamed over. As soon as it reached them, Fogg, Alda, and Fix clambered aboard. But in the meantime, what had happened to Passepartout? He had woken up just in time to catch the ship to Japan. Rushing on board at the last minute, he discovered, to his honor, that Fogg wasn't there. When they landed at Yokohama, Passepartout didn't know what to do. He was wandering around in despair when he saw a poster. "Touring show, eh?" he think. "Maybe I could join the acrobats," said to himself. "When they're going to America, and that's where Fogg is heading next." Can you sing, standing on your head, with a top on your left foot and a sword on your right?" asked the owner of a group. Passepartout nodded. "You're in." That evening, he took part of the first show at the bottom of a human triangle. The crowd loved it, but suddenly all the acrobats collapsed in a heap. Passepartout had spotted Phileas Fogg jump up and run over. Racing home. They had no time for explanations. Fogg and his beaming butler raced to catch their next ship. For San Francisco, Princess Aldoa, who had nowhere else to go, came too. She grew fonder of Fogg each day. As the ship steamed on, Passepartout began to think Fogg would win his bet, but one day he saw Fix on deck. The inspector had secretly followed them. Passepartout hit him. "Wait!" cried Fix. "It might have seemed I was against you before." "You were," said Passepartout. "Well, yes," agreed Fix. "And I still think Fogg's a thief. But now I want him in England. It's only in England I can arrest him." Passepartout didn't want to worry Fogg, so he kept quiet about Fix. But when Fogg went to get his passport stamp in San Francisco, he bumped into an inspector too. "What a surprise!" laughed Fix and joined them on the next stage of the journey, crossing America by the train. The Pacific Railroad steamed right across the country to New York. It had every luxury on board, from shops to restaurants. But it still had to wait when he heard a buffalo cross the track. What a lot of buffalo, right? The next obstacle was a shaky bridge. "I crossed at the top speed," said the driver. He was so fast that the wheel barely touched the tracks. The train reared up and jumped across. As it landed on the other side, the bridge crashed into a river. Uh-oh. Soon after that, they hit real trouble. The train was steaming by some rocky cliffs when a band of Sioux warriors jumped onto the roof. The warriors quickly took over driving the train. Passepartout sped him into action. Crawling under the train, he wriggled and swung all the way to the engine without being seen. When he unhooked the engine, and the train slowly came to a halt just beside the station. But when Fogg looked for his butler a few seconds later, he'd gone. The warriors took one when they fled, shouted a guard. Calling over some soldiers, Fogg went into the hills to look for him. It took all day to find and free Passepartout. When they had to camp out overnight and only got back to the station the following morning. But then the train had long since left and the next one wasn't due over until that evening. "I've done it again," wailed the butler, but Fix came to the rescue. "I've just met a man who owns a land yacht," he announced. Soon they're gliding over the snow. Wind filled the yacht's sails and whizzed over the icy plains. They caught up with the next train for New York. At the every next station, it puffed across the country at top speed. Fogg still had a chance. He finally stopped at the station by the steamship pier at the bank of Hudson River in New York. But the ship to England had already left, only 45 minutes earlier. No other steamers could take them across the Atlantic Ocean in time. Passepartout was crushed, but Fogg still visited every ship at the port. Once again, he found a captain who would take passengers. The ship was sailing to France, but that didn't worry Fogg. He simply locked the captain in his cabin and changed course. The ship was fast, but it was now winter and the weather was terrible. When the engineer gave Fogg more bad news, "The coal for the boiler is running out," he said grimly. "Even my clever master can't solve this," thought Passepartout. Once again, Fogg surprised him. He ordered the sailor to cut down the mast and chop it into logs. Then he told the ammunition man to burn the wood in the ship boiler. Over the next 3 days, the sailor burned the ship's bridge, the cabins, and even the decks. By the time they reached England, only the ship's metal hull was left. They landed to Liverpool, which just enough for Fogg to catch a train to London and will win his bet. But as Fogg stepped off the ship, Fix made his move. "Phileas Fogg," the detective announced, "I arrest you for stealing £55,000. Fogg was thrown into prison, and there was nothing Princess Aouda or Passepartout could do." 3 hours later, they were waiting for news. When Fix rushing in, his hair was a mess, and he looked ashamed. "I made a dreadful mistake," he said. Fogg was free again, but he has only 5.5 hour left. Fogg paid for a special train which roared down to London. As it pulled in, he checked the station clock. Fogg had lost his bet by just 10 minutes. Phileas Fogg did not show any sign of how he felt. He simply left the station with Passepartout and Oda and drove home. The next day, he stayed in his room, adding up all the money he had lost. At 7 o'clock, Fogg visited to Princess Oda in her room. "Madam," he said sadly, "when I brought you to England, I planned to give you a fortune, but I am afraid now it is not possible." "My dear sir," the princess replied gently, "I don't want your money, just you." And he asked, "You want to marry me?" Fogg was overjoyed, and for the first time of his life it showed. "Passepartout," he called, "run to the church and book our wedding for tomorrow. Monday morning, he said. Meanwhile, Fogg's friend at his club had spent the last few days in a fever of excitement. They had not heard a word from Fogg since he left on October 2nd. On the evening of December 1st, they waited eagerly to see if he would show, and as the hands of the clock reached 8:44, they heard a knock on the door. "Here I am, gentlemen," he said. It was Phileas Fogg in person, but how had he done it? "Well, Passepartout has returned from the previous of incredible news. Not Monday tomorrow," he gasped. Tomorrow, Sunday. Today is Saturday." Going around the world to the east gave Fogg an extra day. He'd had 10 minutes left to get to the club and win his bet. Fogg won £20,000, but he had spent nearly £19,000 on the way. He wasn't much better off. On the other hand, he did find a wife and happiness on the trip. Most people would go around the world for less. And he said, "I'm the happiest man in the world." Wow. And here his map. It showed Fogg's route. You see how happy he was? And I think it do a really long one. I hope you enjoy it. It is pretty long though. Bye.